today is a class action involving more than 1,000 women victims of mesh. And to discuss it from a Sydney studio, from Shine, a lawyer Rebecca Jankoskis, and a mesh victim Kim Blieschke. Ladies, good evening.
Good evening.
Look, Rebecca, first to you. You should have told us the result. I mean, it was a win for you, win for the women, win for the victims. First one I've had in a long, long time.
It's certainly been a long road to justice for the brave women who've been affected by these implants. And today's decision is a recognition that the voices of these women have been heard and that they're entitled to compensation for the loss and suffering that they've endured.
Yeah, and I mean, it's gone on for years and years. I must admit, I was watching Twitter very closely this morning. I did think in my own mind that I think you've won, because there was a quote from somebody saying that gee, it'll need a forklift to carry this finding into the courtroom. And I thought, well, if you've lost, it probably wouldn't be such a long judgment, and if you've won, it's going to be a long one. So I hope my guess was right, and it turned out it was, which is fantastic for you and also for the victims. Now, Kim, you were involved in this with me from way back, because I remember once talking to you and Kaz, the other woman I mentioned earlier, and you wanted to come and visit me, and I said, I'm going overseas in a couple of days, but so when I come back, and you said, you're in Port Pirie, right? And you said, and Kaz was in Perth, and you said, we can do it tomorrow, we'll come overnight tonight. And I thought, if you're that keen, I better do this. And at that stage, I was naive enough not to know just how painful it was for you to get in the car or get on a plane and come to Melbourne.
Yeah, certainly. It's certainly been a long road, and we certainly thank you for your support, Darren. Nobody was listening. At least you gave us that option to listen, and the Senate inquiry followed, and of course this decision today is made as validated, and it vindicates us.
Yeah. But Rebecca, one of the problems has been, I'm sure you've found over the years of this case, and the fact you couldn't get mainstream media involved in this, and it was again brought home to me today. When all the major television stations were talking about the mesh result today, they referred to pelvic mesh. The word vagina was forbidden, and that I think is why mainstream stayed away from it for so long. Even when I put a motion up in the Senate condemning it and calling for public hearings, it came back to me from the formers of drafters of the material, and it came back and transvaginal mesh had been changed to pelvic mesh. And I said, why is this? They said, we thought it would get more support. And my point was, that's exactly why it's going nowhere.
Well, this is a very private and uncomfortable subject, not only for women to discuss, but I think also for members of the public to hear and to appreciate. So I think you're right, Darren, that this has been somewhat of an unpalatable subject matter, but it's such an important topic, and it's only through the efforts of advocates such as yourself and the Senate inquiry and the increased litigation and media coverage of this matter that has seen the public awareness of these problems increase. For so many years, women suffered in silence, believing that they were alone and that they were just unlucky to be suffering these problems. But now, as a result of the increased dialogue, women can appreciate that these implants are to blame. And obviously today's judgment affords some legal recognition of that fact.
And it wasn't just in your imagination, it wasn't psychosomatic, and they weren't just looking for extra painkillers.
That's right. Unfortunately, as the Senate inquiry uncovered, women weren't always receiving a sympathetic ear, and they weren't always getting the advice that they needed from their doctors. Thankfully now, with greater public awareness and appreciation of the problems, women can now get back the help and support that they need.
Yeah. Kim, when we had the public hearings, I remember one in Perth, and we had a doctor there, and doctors were sort of still sticking to the 1% and etc., and making the point that of the 85% of women who had procedures was very successful. And one doctor was sitting there going on about this to me, and I said to him, just look behind you. You've been sitting in that chair now for 30 minutes. There are women behind you who are now leaning up against the wall or lying on the floor because they can't sit in a chair for 30 minutes. And what do you say to those women that it's, that it's a minor problem or it's not a very big risk factor?
I mean, it's certainly a risk factor. And I mean, that was proven again today. The courtroom was packed with those very same women who couldn't sit for very long. They were shifting in their seats. They were taking pain relief, but they were there supporting each other, and that's what it was about. You know, I travel from Port Pirie. I've come 3 hours and then 2 hours. You know, I can't sit for any more than half an hour, and this is something that I'll have for the rest of my life.
Yeah, it is. One thing I think I've talked to you before, which sticks in my mind. I went to Sydney to talk to a mesh victim, and she's only 29, and she lived at Cronulla. And I could see she couldn't sit for more than 15 minutes in a chair talking to me. And I said, would you like me to get you a taxi back to home? Because she'd come in on the train. And she looked at me and said, no thank you, I'd rather travel on the train because I can stand up all the way. And I thought, what sort of a life have you got?
And that's exactly right. You know, that was Joanne Boone, and you know, that just, it goes on and on and on. You know, what's really unfortunate as well is these implants, the SUI implants, are actually still being implanted, and they're being called gold standard. We need to have these mesh implants at least suspended. Not one more woman needs to go through what myself or any of these other women have gone through.
The only way I would see it, we recommended it, and the TGA has pulled back on it, I must admit, but we recommended in the Senate report that this only be an absolute last resort. I imagine if you were 75 or 80 and you had a prolapse and you thought, I will risk it, that's different than if you're 25 or 30 and you don't know the full risk. I mean, I know of one case where the woman was told, you know, it's a daytime procedure, and within 6 months you'll be running around like a 16-year-old again, which Rebecca was just wrong, and it was just women were either being fed wrong information or not being informed at all.
Well, the court acknowledged today that the information provided about these implants was likely to mislead and deceive doctors and patients, and that the manufacturers hadn't been forthcoming about the risks and the complications that could result from these implants. The court was also very critical of the lack of testing that was conducted before these implants were released onto the market to ensure that the risks were widely explored and patients could be fully informed.
Yeah. You know, back in 2006, I think it was, 13 years ago, there was a conference, I think in Boston, where one of the drug houses was pushing this, very, very strongly, and making the point that, and the beauty of this polypropylene is that it is immobile. It will stick and stay. And one expert, doctor, turned to his mate and he said, and that will prove to be the problem, because the pelvic floor moves, and yet this stuff doesn't, and it was a recipe for destruction that it was going to break up and cause all sorts of problems.
Fundamentally, these implants are not suited for use in the pelvic area. Originally, this material was used in hernia and continues today to be used in hernia repair. And the abdomen, as Justice Katzmann today recognised in her decision, the abdomen is a different environment to the pelvis and to the region of a woman's vagina. So this material was never suited for this application.
Yeah. Now, final point, presumably there's a chance, I don't have them yet, that there will be an appeal from Johnson & Johnson. As I understand it, though, it'll be in January that you go back to court. Is that correct, to see what the compensation will be ordered by the court, correct?
Yes, that's right. The orders flowing from today's judgment will be made in the new year, most likely in early February, and the time for Johnson & Johnson and Ethicon to lodge an appeal will start to run from the date those orders are made. The usual time period to lodge an appeal is 21 days.
Well, look, congratulations on all the work you put into this one. It was a heck of a long journey for you. And Kim, I admire your guts, I really do. And the other victims with you, you've hung in there, you've finally got some justification and some justice, and I applaud you both and all those women. Thank you.
Thank you, Darren.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. All right, coming up.